You're not bored with sex. You're bored with the same sex. And your body knows the difference between repetition and eroticism. And let me show you how. In the next 29 minutes, you're getting 1, the erotic habituation trap, the neuroscience of why your brain literally cannot generate desire for predictable sex, and why this has nothing to do with your marriage, age, or relationship. 2, the sensation menu framework, a revolutionary approach to intimacy that has nothing to do with lingerie or role play, and everything to do with waking up nerve pathways you forgot existed. And 3, the 72-hour intimacy reset, a practice so counterintuitive. How's that? It will make you question everything you thought you knew about keeping passion alive. If you're in a relationship where sex feels like a chore, stay with me until the end of this episode. So I'm going to start by painting you a picture. It's Saturday night. You and your beloved are in bed. They touch your shoulders. You know exactly what's coming. His hand will move to your breast, then between your legs. Exactly 3 minutes of foreplay. Same position, same rhythm, same ending. You can choreograph this with your eyes closed, and your body is screaming with boredom. And it's not because you don't love this person, and it's not because you're not attracted to this person, and it's not because there's anything wrong with your relationship, but because your nervous system is wired to seek novelty, and you've been having the same exact sexual experience for 15 to 30 years. Here's what no one shares with us about long-term intimacy. Familiarity. Jesus, my mouth doesn't work. Being used to someone becomes the enemy of desire. I know it sounds harsh, and I know, y'all, the cultural narrative says you should be able to maintain passion with the same person doing the same things. That narrative, it's just neurologically false. Your brain has something called a novelty-seeking circuit. It's driven by dopamine, and that's the neurotransmitter of anticipation, curiosity, reward. Dopamine doesn't spike when you get something. It spikes when you're seeking something unknown. A 2023 study from Emory University put couples in an fMRI machine and measured, machines, they weren't in the same machine, obviously, but it was measuring their brain activity during sexual anticipation. And they found that the dopamine response was highest when the sexual interaction was unpredictable. Same partner, unknown experience equals desire. Same partner, known experience equals flatline. Isn't that fascinating? This is why affairs feel so electric. Not because the other person is better, because they're unknown. But here's the part that I hope will change your life. Girl, you don't need a new partner. You need a new experience. Most women have been having the exact same sexual experience since their 20s. And let me ask you something. When was the last time you had sex that surprised you, that introduced a sensation you'd never felt, that made you think, oh my God, I didn't even know my body could feel that? If the answer is never or decades ago, your bedroom boredom isn't a relationship problem. Y'all, it's a nervous system starvation problem. Your body is hungry for new sensation, and you've been feeding it the same meal for 20 plus years. So I want to explain what's happening in your brain and body when sex becomes routine. There's a phenomenon in neuroscience called habituation. And that's when your brain stops responding to repeated stimuli because it's no longer novel. Think about the first time you drove a car, right? God, wasn't that exciting? Ugh, such a fun time of life. Every sensation was heightened. The feeling of the wheel, the pressure of the pedal, the sound of the engine. Your brain was alive with attention. Now, how we drive on autopilot. Our brains have habituated. It stopped paying attention because there's nothing new to process. The same thing happens with sex. The very first time you had sex with your partner, your nervous system was on fire. Every touch was electric. Every sensation was new. Your brain was flooding with dopamine and oxytocin and endorphins. But over time, especially if the sexual choreography stays the same, your brain habituates. It stops paying attention. It stops generating desire because it already knows what's going to happen. Dr. Esther Perel calls this the paradox of intimacy. The very thing that creates security in a relationship, being familiar, predictability, knowing each other completely, those are the things that kill eroticism. Crazy, right? See, eroticism requires mystery. It requires the unknown. It requires your brain to be really engaged and curious and seeking. And here's the kicker. This isn't about your partner. This is about your nervous system. Your brain does not care if you're with the love of your life or a complete stranger. It cares about novelty. A 2021 study from the Kinsey Institute found that couples who introduced novel sexual experiences, not more frequent sex, but different sex, reported 64% higher desire scores within 6 weeks. 64%. They weren't having more sex. They were having unfamiliar sex. New sensations, new positions, new contexts, new textures. And you know what happened? Their brain woke up. Now here's where this gets really interesting for us gals over 50. You've been sold that lie that passion fades with time, the long-term relationships inevitably become sexless, that you just have to accept bedroom boredom as the price of commitment. Yeah, that's bull. That's not biology. That's lazy eroticism. It's two people who stopped being curious about each other's bodies, who stopped exploring, who stopped asking, what haven't we tried? What sensation have we never accessed? That has kept my marriage steamy for 35 years. We are always exploring and trying different things. It's possible. But I want you to know the empowering part. You can reverse habituation at any age. Your brain's capacity for novelty doesn't decline. If anything, your postmenopausal brain is more capable of absorbing new sensation because you have a better interoceptive awareness than you did at 25. You know yourself better. You know your body better. You just have to give it something new to feel. So, okay, I'm going to give you a framework that I hope will revolutionize your intimate life. I call it the sensation menu. Most couples approach sex like a meal. You get what you get. You know, it's a meal that you have ordered at the same restaurant every time you go out, and that's just what we do. You get what you get, same appetizer, same entree, same dessert, every time. But your nervous system wants a tasting menu. Small, varied, surprising sensations that are going to keep your brain engaged and curious. And here's how this works. Sex is not one monolithic experience. Sex is a menu of sensory experiences, and most people are only ordering from 10% of that menu. So I'm going to break down the sensory categories your body can experience during intimacy. We've got temperature, hot, cold, warm. Texture, rough, smooth, silky, scratchy. Pressure, light touch, firm pressure, percussion, vibration. Speed, slow, fast, rhythmic, unpredictable. Sound, there's silence, there's breathing, there's music, voice, moaning. And scent, essential oils, skin, sweat, candles. And then there's taste, skin, food, drink, lips, and context. Location, time of day, lighting, position. Most couples use the same 3 sensations every single time. Medium pressure, medium speed, same context. I mean, is it a wonder your brain is bored? So, what if you approached intimacy like a sensory experiment? What if, instead of having sex, you said, tonight we're exploring temperature? You bring ice, you bring warm oil, you alternate between cold and heat on different parts of the body, and suddenly your nervous system is awake. It doesn't know what's coming next. It's seeking. It's curious. That, my friend, is when desire shows up. Or maybe you said, hey, tonight we're exploring texture. You use silk. You use soft brushes. You use feathers. You use your nails lightly dragging across skin. Different nerve pathways light up. Different pleasure centers activate. Your body experiences something it's never felt before, even with the same partner you've been with for decades. Here's the research that supports this. Dr. Lori Brotto at UBC did a study on sensate focus therapy. And this is a practice where couples explore touch without the goal of orgasm or intercourse, just pure sensation. And after 8 weeks, 78% of participants reported higher desire. Not because they were having more sex, because they were having more varied sensory experiences. Their brains were engaged again. Curiosity returned. Seeking returned. Now here's the piece most sex therapists miss. The sensation menu isn't about pleasing your partner. It's about waking up your body. You're not performing, you're exploring. You're asking, what does my body want to feel tonight? Not what will turn him on or her on. Not what am I supposed to do? What sensation is my nervous system craving? Maybe it's deep pressure. Maybe it's feather-light touch. It could be being completely still while being touched. Maybe it's total darkness. Maybe you're longing for full eye contact. Your body knows. Girl, you just have to ask it. And when you start ordering from the full menu instead of the same 3 items, everything changes. Okay, so we're going to hit this head on. I know what you're thinking. This sounds great, but, how do I actually talk my partner into doing this without making my partner feel like they've been doing something wrong for 20 plus years? Well, that's a beautiful question. Because the only way to introduce novelty is important in how you introduce it. That's the way. You've got to know the conversation you're going to have. And I'm going to give you a script I use with my clients, and I call it the Silk Road script. I visualize a kimono, a silky kimono. But here's how this works. You create a container of safety. Your brain needs that safety. As soon as your brain feels safe, that nervous system is going to regulate, and you're going to be more open to pleasure. So we're going to open this container of safety and then introduce curiosity. So the first step is the appreciation anchor. And you need to start with something true and appreciative. I love how connected we are. I love our history together. This is neurologically important. You're activating your partner's oxytocin system, and that's our bonding hormone, and that helps to create safety. And step 2 is the curiosity invitation. You introduce the idea as shared exploration, not criticism. I've been thinking about how much of our bodies we haven't explored together after all these years. I bet there are sensations we've never even discovered. Notice you're not saying you're boring or I'm not satisfied. You're saying there's more available to us. And that's the reframe. From scarcity, what we're doing isn't enough, to abundance. Let's look at how much we haven't even tapped into yet after all these years. I know my husband and I giggle sometimes because after 35 years, we're still discovering fun stuff. It can and happen, and it's good. But let's go into the third step here, the sensation suggestion. You need to offer a specific low-stakes experiment. What if next time we tried something completely different? Like, what if we spent 20 minutes just exploring temperature, ice, and warm oil? We don't even have to have sex if we don't want. We just feel. You've made it playful. You've made it experimental. You've made it non-performative. And then step 4, the collaborative close. You end with a shared agency. I want you to know your body is curious. Let me try that again, because you do want to know what their body's curious about. And that's what you're saying. I want to know what your body is curious about too. I want you to know what mine is, and want to know what yours is. I want to know what sensations you've been wanting to try. Or maybe you don't even know yet. Let's go experiment. Now, it's not you asking your partner to do something. It's you inviting your partner to co-create something new. That's the script. Practice it, adapt it, make it yours, and watch how fast his resistance melts when you frame novelty as shared curiosity instead of criticism. Okay. Now I'm going to give you the practice that will reverse bedroom boredom in 72 hours. It's called the 72-hour intimacy reset, and it's so counterintuitive that most people resist it at first. And here's the rule. For 72 hours, you're not allowed to have penetrative sex. I know you're thinking, wait, I'm ready to have sex. I'm already not having it. How is not having sex going to help? I hear you. Stay with me. The problem with routine sex isn't the sex itself. It's the script you follow to get there. Touch your shoulder, touch your breast, touch your genitals, penetration, orgasm, done. Your brain knows the script. It knows it so well, it's literally quit paying attention. So we're going to delete that script, throw it in the trash, and force your brain to seek new pathways. And here's how this reset works. You're going to, the first night is the sensation exploration. You're going to spend 20 minutes touching each other's bodies, but you're not allowed to touch breasts, genitals, any sexual areas. Just arms, legs, backs, shoulders, feet, hands. And you're exploring sensation, not arousal. You use different textures: silk, ice, feathers, leather, warm oil, your nails, breath. The goal is to find nerve pathways you didn't know existed. I had a client tell me, I discovered that inside my wrist is more erotic than my nipples. I had no idea. And that's the point. You're mapping new territory. And then the second night, that's the breath and sound night. Still no penetration, but you add breath and sound. You're touching each other, still avoiding the obvious zones, but now you're breathing together, syncing your inhales and exhales. And you're making sounds, humming, moaning, sighing. Y'all, this activates your vagus nerve. This is your body's relaxation superhighway. It also creates vibration. Your throat chakra is going to love that. That's where your authenticity and truth lives. And that vibration is its own sensory experience. In fact, there was a study in 2022 at the University of Montreal, and it found that couples who vocalized during intimacy had 52% higher arousal concordance, meaning their bodies were actually responding instead of just going through the motions. 52%. Just from adding sound. And then night 3, this is the full menu. Everything is available, but there's no script. You're not following the same choreography. You're improvising. You might start with ice on the back of the neck, then warm oil on the feet, then deep pressure on the thighs, maybe feather-like touch on the inner arms. You're building arousal through curiosity instead of routine. And here's what happens. By the time you actually have penetrative sex, even if you want to, your body is so awake, so alive, so flooded with sensation that it feels completely new. Even with your same loving partner in the same bed. Because you've activated different nerve pathways, different pleasure centers, different parts of your brain. So that's the reset. 72 hours, 3 nights, no script. Do it once a month and watch the bedroom boredom evaporate. Here's the final piece I invite you to understand. bedroom boredom is not relationship failure. It's an invitation to erotic sovereignty. So what does that mean? Well, erotic sovereignty is the practice of knowing and asking for what your body wants. Not what you think you should want. Not what worked 10 years ago. What you want right now. Most of us gals have never practiced this. We've been taught to be responsive, to please, to accommodate, to say yes when he initiates, and perform enthusiasm even when we're not feeling it. But that's not sovereignty. That's compliance. And compliance kills desire. Here's the truth Esther Perel has been teaching for decades. The quality of your sex life is directly proportional to your willingness to assert your desires. And not in a demanding way, but in a sovereign way. Tonight, I want slow. I want to be touched like I'm precious. I want 20 minutes of just kissing. Or, tonight, I want rough. I want to feel your strength. I want to be pinned down. Or, tonight, I don't want penetration at all. I want you to worship my body with your hands and mouth for as long as it takes. That specificity, that clarity, that's what creates eroticism. Because your partner, he's not having to guess. You're not performing. You're both present to what's actually happening instead of what you think is supposed to happen. And when you practice erotic sovereignty, when you start naming what you want, experimenting with new sensations, introducing novelty into your intimate life, something shifts. You stop having I can't even say it, sure don't want to do it, obligatory sex. You start having hungry sex. You stop tolerating bedroom boredom. You start demanding bedroom fire. And your body, your body wakes up. Okay, so let's lock this in. Here's what you just learned. Bedroom boredom isn't a relationship problem. It's an erotic habituation. Your brain is wired to seek novelty, and you've been having the same sexual experience for years. That's not a character flaw, that's neuroscience. The sensation menu framework. Sex isn't one experience. It's a menu of temperature, texture, pressure, speed, sound, scent, taste, and context. Most couples order from 10% of the menu. When you start exploring the other 90%, your nervous system wakes up. The Silk Road script, how to introduce novelty without making your partner defensive. You create safety, invite curiosity, suggest specific experiments, and make it collaborative. And then the 72-hour intimacy reset. 3 nights of deleting the script and exploring sensation without penetration. It forces your brain to seek new pathways and reverses habituation in 72 hours. And then you learned about erotic sovereignty, the practice of knowing and asking for what your body wants right now. Not performing, not complying, claiming. And I know, let me just validate and normalize something. If you are a bit dissociated from your body, it might take a hot minute to even realize what you want. And if you'll continue listening to this podcast, hop over to my Compassion Fatigue Cure podcast. I give all kinds of somatic psychology techniques to help with this, as well as chakra psychology techniques and strategies to get you re-embodied. So be gentle with yourself around that. I do invite you to do the 72-hour reset this week. Reignite your desire and fire. Use the sensation menu and practice sovereignty. Girl, you're not bored, you're starving. And it is time to feast.